Okay. Got my coffee. I got favorite local coffee shop beans with stevia and a little bit of vanilla. I like vanilla paste instead of vanilla extract because vanilla extract, it's pretty bitter, and especially with alcohol in it, I'm not really a fan of how it tastes. So I do vanilla bean paste, like a little tiny bit of it, which tastes a lot better. While I am on this drive, I wanted to share my experience with bodybuilding and yoga, how I got started in bodybuilding, how I got started in yoga. So I'm going to talk about both. I'm going to talk about my relationship with yoga and how it's changed, how it started when I started teaching, and how it is now, and how it is ever evolving or ever changing. Same thing with my bodybuilding. First of all, I've always been a very active person. Like, I've always been in sports. There wasn't a time in my life when I was a kid that I was not active. Either I was actively in soccer, softball, basketball, volleyball, swimming, cheerleading. Yeah, I tried cheerleading once, and that was only once. The only sports I didn't play were like rugby, lacrosse, stuff like that. I was even into horses. I was a little horse girl. I had 2 horses. One was named Cinnamon, and she was, I loved her so much. I also hunted with my dad and my family, so we would always go to a cabin down south and hike all the time, hunt, be out in the woods. When I was growing up, we had about 2 acres in our backyard, so I was constantly back there. I remember, like, in the field, I was riding my 4-wheeler when I was like 13, like way too young to even drive. Just walking in the backfield, walking in the backwoods. I would always dig holes in the woods all the time in the back of my parents' house. So me being a kid, I was constantly active, which was so fun. It was so much fun. I loved it so much. And it got to the point where my dad made me choose. He was like, would you rather pursue this horse equestrian life, or would you rather pursue a sports life? Because as I go into high school, I could not do both. There's no way I could be a high school kid playing 3 sports while also managing horses at the same time. Like, I couldn't do both. So I chose sports. So we would have training, lifting every single day after class. Probably had like a half-hour break or something in between when school got out and when lifting started. And then after lifting, we would have like 2-3 hours of practice. And I wouldn't get home till like 7 or 8 o'clock at night sometimes. It was crazy. On top of doing homework and all that fun stuff. That was when I first got introduced to weightlifting, was for volleyball. And oddly enough, that's how I got introduced to yoga, was from volleyball. So junior year of high school, our athletic program introduced yoga to all of its sports. So with our weightlifting, we did train like weightlifting 4 or 5 days a week, and then 1 day or 2 days a week, I forget what it was. Instead of weightlifting, we did yoga. They had a yoga teacher come in from a local yoga studio and teach our volleyball team, which is really cool. I remember the first class, I was coming out of the first class and I was like, yeah, that was cool, whatever. Like, I got a good stretch, cool. But the second or third yoga class, I literally remember it like to this day. It was such a profound memory, but in the moment it didn't seem that profound. Does that make sense? I remember second or third yoga class I've ever taken. We were in my high school's wrestling room. It smelled so bad in there. Like, it was matted floor, matted walls, all that stuff. It was dark, it was gross, it was sweaty. It was so bad. I can remember the smell now. It was at the end of the yoga class. She had us go up against the padded walls and put our legs up on the wall. And she guided us through a 3-part breath, which was inhale and feel your chest, your ribs, your belly expand. Exhale, feel your belly, ribs, and chest deflate, whatever. And it was like a very meditative breath. First time I've ever done breath work. And I went into this meditative state where I have not found so much peace in my entire life. It was just so amazing. I remember I was like, nothing else matters, but everything matters in this moment. It like wasn't a profound experience, but it was an experience that I never forgot. And it wasn't like a high. It was like, whoa, this level of peace exists within me. And mind you, at the time I was a junior in high school, so I was a bitch. All I cared about was like music, partying, hanging out with my friends. after that, I started going to yoga classes where that teacher taught at, which is about 20 minutes away from my house. And that introduced me to hot yoga. I remember the first yoga class I've ever been to in a studio. I actually went with my friend at the time, and because she went to the same studio, and she's like, oh my God, like we should go together. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Because I've been doing yoga, you know, in high school and in the wrestling room. So like, I'm fine to go to a studio. Wrong. I went to a hot power yoga class, like level 2.0 or something. It sucked. Like it was so hard. I was so bad. I went in literally the back right corner, and thank God I was in the corner because, well, granted, I was in the corner, so it was the hottest place in the room too. It was so bad. I remember sweating so much. I felt so lightheaded. But when I got out, I felt so good. I was like, whoa, I feel like 10 pounds lighter. I feel so strong. Like, you know, that post-hot yoga feeling? Like, I got that. It was so nice. But that made me keep wanting to go back for more and more and more. I wanted to master it. I still am this type of person where when I start something, like I want to master it. It's a challenge for me, and I love that challenge. So I thought that with yoga, and I was like, okay, I'm going to master this hot yoga class, whatever. It took me a couple years, towards like the end of high school, senior year, going into college. I was going to hot yoga regularly, like 3 to 4 times a week. I had my crew, I had my teachers, all that fun stuff. And then I went to college in Cleveland, and I found a yoga studio up there. And it wasn't hot yoga. It was, you know, regular traditional flow classes. And that's where I fell in love with the chill yin meditation classes. That was so transformative in college because I needed time for myself. In college, I was in a very toxic relationship. I don't want to say I had toxic friends, but I was in a friend group where I could not be my most vulnerable self, and vice versa. They couldn't be their most vulnerable self, so we were toxic friends for each other. I drank heavily. I did not take care of my body. Just say I was not in a good headspace in college, you know, and everyone who knew me in college was like, Sabrina, you're so happy, you're so go-lucky, you're so positive. Even my family were like, Sabrina, you love life, you're so happy. Like, but behind closed doors, like I was not happy at all. I was very depressed. I was very anxious. And truly the only time that I felt myself was in a yoga class or at the gym too. For the longest time, I was pretending to be someone who I wasn't. I was portraying myself to be this different person, and inside I felt like a fraud. I felt so gross. I could not feel like I could express who I really am because I've put on this face for so long. So when I went to yoga, all of that dropped. I was myself for an hour on that mat. Like, I was myself. And that's why I love yoga so much. Because it doesn't matter if I had a bad day. It doesn't matter if I'm in a toxic relationship. It doesn't matter who I'm friends with. It doesn't matter if I'm an alcoholic. If I go to yoga, I own all that and I am myself. It's not that I found peace, but it's that I found compassion for myself in order to keep coming back. That was when the first idea came to me that I wanted to be a yoga teacher, was in college. Because I saw a gap in the yoga world, and I still see this gap to this day, where we prioritize movement and power and false positivity over truth, over peace, over compassion, over non-judgment, and over being. We prioritize doing and striving over being. It wasn't until I went into that being state of mind that I truly started to see what I was doing in my life and who I really was. I was like, wow, I don't like this version of myself. I don't like myself. And it wasn't until I came to yoga until I had that realization, like, wow, I do not like who I am. That was, all that realization stuff was now on to junior, senior year of college. Around 2019, I want to say was like, I don't want to say like my spiritual awakening, because like we all have different awakenings in our life. 2019 was a year where it was very rough for me. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time of 4 years. I had falling out with those friends. I contemplating moving across the country. I was struggling with relationships with my family and close people to me that I've been close with for all my life in my family. And I was just battling really hard and difficult feelings from my childhood that were seeping out into other areas of my life, like me indulging in alcohol or food or social media or partying or traveling. It was just, at this time, I literally did not like anything about myself at all. And I knew it was going to take years, like not just months or not just 1 year, but like I knew it was going to take years for me to be the person that I wanted to be. And I'm still working on it, like we all are. That's life, right? It's always life. I had to come to that realization that I did not like myself with compassion and with love through yoga, through a safe space. And it wasn't that I didn't like myself. In reality, I did not like the habits that I was doing to create the life that I wanted and the perception and my mindset that I wanted. Because your life is all about what you do, what you say, your habits. Like, reality, I didn't like myself, but at the same time, like, to get deep here, there's no identity in the world. There's no such thing as like a self. We build our perceptions and we build our sense of self through habits, through repetitions, through thought patterns, through what we do, by what we think, by what we say, by what we consume, all that stuff. And I didn't like what I was saying. I didn't like who I was being. I didn't like what I was consuming. I didn't like who I spent my time around. Therefore, I did not like my falsely identified sense of self. But in this world, we need to build that sense of self in order to live a happy, successful life. Anyway, story for a different day. I graduated with my degree in biochemistry, and then from there I went on to become a marijuana chemist out of college. I'm not saying that's bad at all. I have mad props to marijuana chemists. Actually, most chemists that I work with in the marijuana lab did not smoke. It was pretty cool. I stopped smoking actually when I worked in the lab. I don't know if I finally had like a realization where it's like, wow, this isn't doing me any good, or if I was just around it all the time that I was like, I don't want this anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, I stopped smoking then. I smoked here and there after, but religiously I stopped then. And that's when I realized, wow, I don't want to be in this industry anymore. It was very corrupt. It was very money hungry, very political. It was just not a good industry to be in. It just felt icky. So I got out of that, almost moved out to New Mexico. I had everything squared away. I had my job squared away. I had my apartment squared away. And I rented an Airbnb up on the mountain by myself. I was going down the mountain to actually sign papers for my job that I just got. And I had just a really bad feeling in my stomach. Like, I had a really bad feeling. I was starting to cry. So I pulled off on the side of the mountain on this little creek that was like a little waterfall running down the, like a little creek waterfall running down the mountain. Pulled off on the side. I sat on a park bench next to the creek, and I look up and I saw a bouquet of yellow roses in the creek. And it was beautiful. It was December out, so it was freezing. It was snow. It was so pretty, and the roses were like frozen, and they were tied to like a rock or something, and the creek was going, and it was just so pretty, like the water and like the frozen ice that was like on the yellow roses. I don't know, it just, something in me sparked or said, not now. I started bawling, and I was like, okay, cool, this is not my time to move out to New Mexico. No matter how bad I still want to. New Mexico, especially northern New Mexico, is like, that's my space. Anyway, I had that intuition feeling, and I said, you know what, Sabrina, you've already came so far by not listening to your intuition in life. You need to listen to your intuition from now on. I called up the job, said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not taking this. They were very confused and very angry. They're like, wow, you already said 5 times that you would, like, what happened? I didn't want to be like, I saw yellow roses, you know what I mean? Which actually was a blessing in disguise, because 2 or 3 months later, it was March 2020, and that's when COVID hit. So I'm very happy that I didn't move out there just to have everything shut down 3 months later, 2 months later, whatever it was. But I moved back in with my mom in Ohio. Didn't have a job, like nothing. I didn't have anything. I was like, I don't know what to do. I was pretty depressed. I was anxious. I got back to drinking a lot more. I gained a lot of weight, like a lot of weight. I ate a lot more. I wasn't even going to yoga at this time. I just kind of, within these 3 months, just, I don't even know what I did. I kind of blacked out. I was raving a lot, going to parties a lot still. So I was like, you know what? I kind of just want to get away, right? I wanted to escape. So my dad lives in Florida, and I was like, you know what? Everything's shut down in Ohio. Like, everything's shut down in Ohio. But nothing was shut down in Florida where my dad was at. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Florida and live down there. During COVID, I moved down to Florida with my brother and my dad. And I lived down there during COVID. It was just a party the whole time. Like, I didn't really do anything. I was like, you know what? I should do something. So I got my online MBA, which was honestly extremely easy. It was very easy to get. But in the meantime, like, I was partying, I was drinking, I was going out on boats all the time. I just did not feel, I was like, what am I doing? I just did not feel good about myself. And granted, at the moment, it was great. When you're drinking and partying and like on a boat, you're having a great time, right? But as soon as you come home and like go to bed, you're like, what am I doing? I feel so bad about myself. Then the next day, it's like, wow, I feel so bad about myself. What am I doing? Let's go party again so I don't feel bad about myself. Like, that's literally how the cycle was. Around December of 2020, and I was like, you know what? I saw an ad for yoga teacher training. And this was from the same yoga studio that I used to go to in high school. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for it. I'm going to do it. And at the time, I really wanted to open up a hemp company because I did not want to be in the medical marijuana industry because it was so political. I was like, you know what? I'm good at hemp. I know how to run a lab. So let me take my skills to use and open up my own business. I opened up a hemp company and I grew hemp in my parents' backyard on those 2 acres that I used to ride my 4-wheeler in. I opened up a hemp lab where we produced cannagars, like Delta 8 and hemp cannagars, tinctures, oils, all that fun stuff. So anyway, backtrack. It was December. I was in Florida. I saw an ad for yoga teacher training and I was like, let's do it. I don't feel good about myself. I want to be a yoga teacher. I want to get back into yoga. I think this yoga teacher training will help me kind of get back into it and learn about it. So I moved back to Ohio in December or January-ish because the program started after New Year's. It was on Wednesdays from like 3 to 6 and then on Sundays from like 9 to 4 or something like that. So, and this was for 6 months straight. So it was a pretty big commitment and I ate it up. It was so much fun. I wouldn't say fun. It was just great. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about yoga, obviously, but it was really transformative because the people that I took my training with, we all just vibed so well and we all had healing that we needed to do in our own way. It's like we all found this training. It was almost like therapy for us. Like we all had something to heal from and we all were in it together and it was just so beautiful. And yoga teacher training kind of sparked that, okay, Sabrina, like, you know what to do. You know you still don't like your habits. We've established this for 1.5 years, 2 years now. Like, now you need to do something. Like, I have all the knowledge now. I have all the knowledge. You know what to do. Just do it. Like, just do it, right? So, mind you, I've been in therapy all this time too. So when I came to that first realization in college where I did not like myself, like in 2018, or senior year of college, I was like, wow, I need a therapist, first of all. So I found a therapist. I don't work with him anymore, but I worked with him from that time in college, junior, senior year, all the way up until like post-COVID. So I worked with him for like 4 or 5 years or so, which was really nice. And he helped me a lot too. He helped me with my like feelings with my family. Yeah. Okay. I had all the knowledge. I knew what to do. I just wasn't doing it. It came down to a disciplinary issue. I knew that I had to have more discipline in my life. I knew that I needed to actually change my day-to-day habits. I had all the knowledge and I was kind of kidding myself. I was like, you know what? I need more knowledge, right? So I read all these self-help books. I listened to all these podcasts, watched all these documentaries. I tried different types of therapy. I went to like EMDR therapy, DBT therapy. I did neurofeedback. I was taking psychedelics at the time to help me. Like I did all these other things instead of actually doing what I needed to do to change, right? So it was around this time too, where I moved back. I was amidst teacher training for yoga, where I was like, you know what? I'm going to start going back to the gym again. Because I loved weight training. Weight training made me feel like I was doing something that I didn't want to do, and I got extremely great benefits from it. Amidst teacher training, amidst opening up a business, amidst strength training, amidst trying to eat better, amidst quitting alcohol completely, Like, I felt like I was a wreck too. Like, I became so anxious. I started to develop a stutter. I couldn't look anyone in the eye. It was very hard for me to say my name. I felt so scared everywhere I went. It's like once I dropped all the bullshit things that I was clinging on to, I was revealed with like the consequences of my actions, or like not really who I really was, but I was revealed with so much fear that I've never dealt with in my life. And I dealt with it by drinking and by partying, all that fun stuff. So I was like, wow, now I need to have the strength to deal with this fear. Guys, I'm driving through somewhere so pretty right now, like all these trees. Oh my God. I just love driving during like right post storm, and there's trees and like the parks. Oh my God. I wish you guys could see this. Wow. Anyway, that's when I fell in love with the bodybuilding world, was when I was like, you know what? I need more action. I need more doing. I have learned enough. I have felt my feelings. I feel fear. Now I need to build up courage to combat this fear that I have of the world. I graduated teacher training, so I've been teaching for about a year at this point. I wasn't drinking. I was on the path to have a successful life, right? Which actually was the start of everything. So in 2022, about a year and a half, 2 years into me doing this consistently, I met my husband at the gym, and he introduced me to like the bodybuilding world. So at this point, I already lost 20 pounds at this point. Like, I've been doing it consistently, and I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to actually start meal prepping and having better nutrition, which I was, because I had a trainer at the time and he really helped me. But when I met my husband, it just like took me to a whole different level. And I was like, wow, like that is what I need in my life. And that's what I want in my life too. I want a routine. I want to know what I'm doing and know what results I'm going to get from it. I wanted to be more certain. I wanted to be more sure. It was just great. He introduced me to the bodybuilding world, and I fell in love instantly, because it was the complete opposite of yoga, but it was similar. Like with yoga, you need to be disciplined in your practice of being and feeling and allowing. But with bodybuilding, you need to be disciplined in your practice of striving, of doing, of working, you know? So they're both disciplinary practices, but one is way more doing based and active based, and one is more being based and more passive based. And I saw this and I was like, wow, I need both in my life. It's been 3 years since I met my husband. Just about. I started bodybuilding, got like an official bodybuilding coach, you know, got a couple of them. You know, you all know my journey from bodybuilding, and if you don't, you know, just go watch my previous videos or go to my socials. But the number one thing I learned throughout this process is that it is a process and you cannot rush it. No matter how much I wanted to rush my healing, no matter how much I wanted to rush my journey, no matter how bad I wanted to be perfect, it's who I build myself to be in those times. That's what really matters. And that's, in my opinion, what life is about. The way I see healing is that it happens in 3 steps. The first step, you becoming aware of it. And that is where yoga, or the Om of Iron and Om, comes in. And this awareness is not judgment. It's not, wow, I don't like myself. It's like, wow, I don't like the person that I am being. It's more like an observation instead of like an emotional judgment. Does that make sense? The next step is, okay, cool. Now I know this. What do I need to do to become somebody who I do like? And this is more knowledge based. So this is more, in my opinion, like neutral. So you have your passive, which is acknowledging and noticing, which is step 1. Then you have your neutral, which is learning, which is step 2. That's your audiobooks, that's your therapy, that's your YouTube. And there are so many resources nowadays. There's ChatGPT, for God's sake. I'm not saying use that as your therapy, but use that as a resource. Like, hey, I am doing these and I want to become this person. What are some habits that I can do to be consistent and get better at? There's so many resources nowadays to get help, and it pisses me off where I'm not going to go there. Okay. So many resources. So many resources. If you truly want help, you will help yourself. You will. And if you don't, you're making excuses for yourself and whatever. Step 2 is neutral. Learn the information. Learn all you can. Knowledge is your best friend. Learn. Learn from more than one teacher. Read more than one book. Read the book on the opposite side. Like, just learn. Then there comes a point, step 3, and the final step is a more active. So step 1 was passive. Step 2 is neutral. Step 3, active now. This is your doing. You are literally doing things to change. You are taking what you know from step 1 and you are applying what you learned from step 2 to actively creating and being. In my opinion, and this is different from this is different for everybody, but for me, going from step 2 to 3 was the most difficult because I kept thinking I needed more knowledge, but in fact, I just needed to do it. And that was so difficult for me because I've never done it before, so it was very uncomfortable and it was very uncertain. So, and that could be the most difficult step for you. I know for a lot of people that I teach in my yoga practice, step 1 is very difficult for them, acknowledging the problem and acknowledging, wow, like I don't like this part of myself, or like sitting there and witnessing all sides of yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, the neutral. Like that is very hard for people. That is not hard for me because I have a pretty non-judgmental and non-biased mind as it is. But a lot of people have the judgments, a lot of people have their clingings and their attachments, and that's very hard for them. And it could be very hard for you. But for me, the really hard part was going from step 2 to 3, putting action, knowing when to shut the book, knowing when to turn off the podcast and get to work. And that still is the most difficult part for me. And also, step 3 itself could be the most difficult part because in order to see results, you need to stay consistent for the same thing over a period of time. And you're going to want to go back into your old patterns. You're going to want to go back into your old habits because it's what you've known, it's what you've been comfortable with, right? But yeah, I'm on step 3 right now, and it's great. If I have any advice for you guys who are just starting this journey is to give yourself grace and to give yourself permission to take time. Give yourself space in whatever phase you're in, whether that's step 1, 2, or 3. Notice which step is the most difficult for you. Again, is it observing and being very honest with yourself and getting to know yourself in a loving and compassionate way? Is it knowledge? Do you genuinely do not like to learn? And step 2 is very hard for you. Or is it step 3 where putting in the work is very hard for you? And being patient with the work is very hard for you. So in step 1, you do not have to be in a yoga class to do so. All that you can do is just sit there in a comfortable spot where you feel completely safe. Maybe it's in your bed, maybe it's in a park, maybe it's in your car. It could be anywhere that you feel safe. And just allow yourself to be quiet. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by your phone. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by music or walking or food or anything else. Just allow yourself to breathe and ask yourself, like, I am here with you. Is there anything that you would like me to know? Ask yourself that. And be very courageous and loving and compassionate with whatever comes up. For me, the first time I did this, I was like, I don't like myself. And that was actually a very loving thing for me to say to myself because that was not the path that I was supposed to be on. Those were not the actions that I was supposed to take. So, yeah. Start somewhere. Start slow. Start easy. And keep following along for more tips and tricks.